Biz on the track.
It's be on the beat.
How you supposed to have light if you got solar missing?
Everything seemed bright with solar vision.
A whole court and a witness, nobody noticed missing.
I'm my own judge, jury, and the co-defendant.
It ain't an idol if it's solar image.
Get to the core, my nigga, no pretending.
Hotter than Jamie Foxx on a solar mission.
Melchizedek, no beginning nor an ending.
Ain't no need to study long if you gon' study wrong. Got me chasing the ghost with no lully bones. Blew a hustle anywhere but never hustle home. Mama prayed for his soul cause he ain't coming home. Watch you doctrine get demolished. Bluetooth pilots for YouTube scholars. I do for knowledge, not no stupid dollars. My new provider make them hoop and holler. In the lead for the light bringers, Illuminati. You ain't doing nada and blue ain't bother. Can't be rolling with you with no stupid MAGA. No Candace Owens, I don't do Kamala. Free flowing out this new Kabbalah. Lumen in the garden, hit a human olive. And you can get this stick with no soup and salad. Blue seek asylum on a Cuban island. My newest challenge is live a long life. Can't nobody live it for you, you gon' live your own life. Right place, wrong time, I'm in the valley where the bones dry. I prophesy till the bones rise. How you supposed to have light if you got solar missing?
Everything seemed bright with solar vision.
A whole court and a witness, nobody noticed missing.
I'm my own judge, jury, and the co-defendant.
It ain't an idol if it's solar image.
Get to the core, my nigga, no pretending.
Hotter than Jamie Foxx on a solar mission.
Melchizedek, no beginning nor an ending.
Wake up, Jacob, tell him it's urgent. Identify me by the blessings, never the curses. Walk on water, but I never submerging. You a goon on Zoom, but never in person. My verses merge with the ancient letters. My rating's good, but my rank is better. You soft as Wayne and baby's leather. If I bring my best, you can't do better. Local natives surrounded by the foreigners. The throne of David, the crown is Moorish. I can anoint the babies and crown the poorest. I'm rolling out, I found the forest. Lex told me keep a head and a leg up. Y'all rob with a tank at your head, bruh. Consul told Blue keep your bread up. Seen solar at the door like Legba. Yeah, I'm shooting for the top like Rick Berry. Sneaking baseline trying to rip Parrish. This is where your talking points get perished. Just to be a champion like Chris Harris. How you supposed to have light if you got solar missing?
Everything seemed bright with solar vision.
A whole court and a witness, nobody noticed missing.
I'm my own judge, jury, and the co-defendant.
It ain't an idol if it's solar image.
Get to the core, my nigga, no pretending.
Hotter than Jamie Foxx on a solar mission.
Melchizedek, no beginning nor an ending.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. Cool. Let's see what we got. All right, y'all can hear me now. Okay, cool. Cut that. All right. So that should do it. Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect. All right. I had a little bit of an echo, so I had to get rid of that. So, real quick, we're just gonna get into a quick little something. Um, do poor people need anarchy to build a commonwealth? Right? Do poor people need anarchy to build a commonwealth? We're just gonna get into establishing a few things. I was actually supposed to be beating up more on this, and he ended up running. But I'll go ahead and beat him up anyway. I'm quite sure he's always listening. He's a debater. Shout out to Tiffany Turner. I appreciate you, sis, in the building. Appreciate your presence. Definitely. So today, right, I will be defining a commonwealth, right? Also going over what anarchy is, right? Which anarchy is the reaction that will come if we try to basically create a commonwealth in somebody else's commonwealth. That's pretty much what we're going to be getting into, right? So we talk about the Commonwealth, dealing with it from the Oxford Dictionary. It's an independent country, right? It's an independent country. Shout out to Shay Love. I appreciate you in the building. It's an independent country or community, especially a democratic republic. A formal title of some of the states of the U.S., especially in Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, right? A formal title. That's going to be real key when we discussing a commonwealth. Is there's basically two forms. There's a real commonwealth, and then there's the one that like they call commonwealths, like the states and different things like that. But you notice that they're not truly a commonwealth. They're only a commonwealth by name because they use the same currency, they use the same judicial system, they use all the same stuff, right? So when we talk about a commonwealth, right, what are we looking for? Sovereign, independent, outside of the current structure, right? Something that is different, that it's a difference in politics. It should be a difference in the economic system, right? It should be truly freedom, right? It'd be a state, a city, or a community, right? But if you're talking about a commonwealth in the form of a state, a city, or a community, that it's still subordinate to the officials of the national, of the nation, are still subject to the laws of the nation and can create laws that can't create laws that contradict interests, right? So you see, you have two different forms. A true commonwealth, you would actually be sovereign, you would actually be independent, you would be operating outside of the structure. And a commonwealth by name, like some of the states that they call commonwealths and different things like that. Shout out to Green 101 God, I appreciate you in the building. When you're talking about it in that instance, really the cats is just talking about building another damn city or something like that, right? They're not really talking about an independent state. They're not really talking about having your own independent structure. Those are two different conversations. So I just want y'all to be careful and be mindful whenever cats is talking that slick talk and they go into commonwealth and this and that. A state is a commonwealth, right? Matter of fact, let me go back. I think I had it. Like what? Like Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, right? Now, all of those are Commonwealth by name, but which one of those operate outside of the current structure? None of them. So that's why you got to be careful with what they talking about, right? When they talking about Commonwealth. So let's get into it. So a nation, a state, or a political unit such as, right? So one that is founded on law and united by compact or tacit agreements of the people for a common good. And then B, one which is supreme authority is vested in the people, right? So you're still going to be dealing with, and this is when we're talking about a nation, state, or a political unit, right? Now you can't have anything that's vested in just vested strictly for the people when you talk about you're in somebody else's shit. Because mind you, the whole point of this is cats that be talking that we're gonna build a commonwealth inside of a commonwealth bullshit with no anarchy and no problems and no issues. I'm telling you right now, that ain't happening. It just don't work like that. So now when we get into it, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, there we go. According to the latest data, right, for the U.S. Census Bureau, namely the 2019, have and the have-nots, right? You're talking about the have and the have-nots, the 99% as opposed to the 1%, and the people who are vital to the everyday infrastructure, right? This is versus what? So the U.S. poverty rate is is nationally at 13.4%. This means that 13.4% of the nation of the national population lives below the poverty line, right? This is equal to more than approximately 42.5 million people, right? 42.5 million people. If you're talking about uh that are poor people, that would basically be, and you talk about building their own commonwealth, that is no question that would cause anarchy, right? Because guess what, you're gonna find out what type of people actually live below the poverty line. You're gonna find out most of the police officers are living below the poverty line, right? You're gonna find out, I mean, not or near or at. Excuse me. So let's talk about it. When we talk about a commonwealth in function as opposed to a name, in function, sovereignty is the supreme authority within a territory. Sovereignty entails hierarchy within the state, as well as external autonomy for states, right? So that means, you making all of the rules, you the boss, ain't no getting around that, right? People disagree, people say what they want to do, but it's just what it is, right? So let's talk about different ways how we know that the problems that we get whenever you try to make moves outside of the current structure, right? We'll see what happens. So Gaddafi to use $7 billion in secret gold and silver to prop up a new African currency, right? He was trying to prop up a new African currency. This was according to Vice News, right? Libyan oil, gold, and Gaddafi. The strange email Sidney Blumenthal sent to Hillary Clinton in 2011. Right? This is the article. You see, they called him friend, right? Called him friend. He was cool. But the minute that he tried to move outside of the structure, it caused anarchy, right? One of Clinton's closest advisors passed her an intelligence report prepared by an ex-CIA official that speculated about France's motivation for bombing Libya, right? So as we can see, Libya was hit up. Hold on, my fault. It's tripping on me. Yeah, so they tried to get in. What was their motivation? Basically, was him being creating his own independent state, right? I mean, excuse me, making his own independent currency, which was outside of the structure. And mind you, he was doing this in a whole nother country, in a whole nother part of the world. You're talking about trying to do this inside of their own shit. So when we talk about the UN that let Iraq sell oil for euros, not dollars, right? We even seen it what happened with Iraq when Iraq tried to move on their own, right? And they tried to move oil outside of the US dollar or outside of the current structure. What happened to them? The United States, a UN panel on Monday approved that Iraq's plan to receive oil export payments in Europe's single currency after Baghdad decided to move this week's date back a week, right? They found him. Soon as he tried to make moves on his own, where did they find this guy at? In a fucking hole. In a hole. Right? In a hole. So just imagine that. All he tried to do was do something that a Commonwealth should be able to do, correct? But what you don't realize is that you're a Commonwealth inside of a Commonwealth. And what people don't really see, what's the Commonwealth that you're inside of? It's a global Commonwealth. Don't even get that. It's a global Commonwealth. The whole infrastructure. That means even as a country, you're not allowed to do exactly what you want to do. It's just not going to happen like that. So when we talking about making these independent moves and creating a currency and all of that inside of their shit, that's not happening like that. Shout out to Clyde Diva. I really appreciate you says coming through. Right? That's not even going to happen like that. So what do? The minute that Saddam Hussein tries to make a move on his own, you find this guy in a damn hole. Boom. They pull him out of a hole, make a mockery of him, and then got him in front of his own people. Shout out to Astro God Body. I appreciate you in the building. Like, think about this. Shout out to Akmalak, man. I appreciate you, God. Like, come on. They dug him out of a hole. All he was trying to do was move his own shit in his own country, in the currency that he wanted to move it in. They find him in a hole and pull this nigga out, and then hang him in front of his own people. Think about that. He had to hide in front of his own people in a damn hole. Now, when we talk about even doing this here in the United States, this would be a Commonwealth built by poor people, right? That was the whole purpose. So the Commonwealth would be built by poor people, right? How many is that? That's 42.5 million poor people. Watch who some of these people are. This is how you know it's going to cause anarchy. There's no way to get around anarchy. There's no way to get around the chaos. You can try to run from it. You can try to hide, but bad shit is going to happen. It's just simple and plain, especially when you talk about trying to move independently and for yourself, right? So let's talk about it. 18 U.S. Code 486, uttering coins of gold, silver, and other metal. This is by lawcornell.edu. Whoever accepts, right, as authorized by law, makes or utters or passes or attempts to utter or pass any coins of gold or silver or other metals, right, or alloys of metals intended for use as currency or money, right? Whether in the resemblance of the coins of the United States or of foreign coins or of an original design shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. See, a lot of people don't even realize the dude who created Bitcoin, Satoshi, nobody knows who the fuck he is. It's a reason for that. That nigga's life is on the line. Shout out to Miss Woody Reed. I appreciate you in the building, sis. Like real life. Think about that. That dude, nobody knows who Satoshi is. And then there was a dude with a last name Satoshi. They mistakenly thought that he was the guy that created Bitcoin. This dude's life was in danger. And it wasn't even him. It got to the point, I think they donated like 50 like million Bitcoins to him and some shit. So he could just disappear. Like the dude was getting harassed. They was trying to kill him. All kind of shit was coming to his house just because they thought he was the dude who created Bitcoin. There ain't no creating no current shit. Don't move that smooth. It just don't move that smooth. And there ain't no getting around it without causing chaos, right? So if we're talking about being black or being the poorer class or the lower class, and or this is a movement for the have-nots, any movement for the have-nots that's thinking about moving independently is going to cause chaos and it's going to cause anarchy. You can't run from that. There's no need to, right? Look at even who we talking about. Check this out. The police pay gap. Many of Americans find they struggle on poverty wages. Around the U.S., some police officers earn a comfortable middle class wages, right? While others scrape by on poverty or near poverty pay. See, what you're gonna find out is it's demographics when it comes down to which police officer is getting paid how much. So even when we're talking about a poor man's struggle or the poor people's struggle in general, right? There are going to be a lot of police that's going to be involved in that. You telling me taking a police force with you won't cause anarchy to the system? How is that not possible? It makes no sense. So let's just keep going. Right, when we talk about the Bureau of Labor Statistics, figures show that at least 1 in 10 police officers earn less than $15 a damn hour. Less than $15 an hour. And guess where these people are at? Shout out to Nick with B. I appreciate you, sis, in the building. Right? Earning less than $15 an hour. Think about where these people are. So what are we talking about? That's the labor force, right? a quarter of the police force, and rural America. What do you get when you get that? And we even talk about the last time the people who felt like things was up, January 6th. Do y'all forget what happened? These clowns. So I don't even know why we even trying to do it the clean way anyway, because the people who built the country and who the country is for, in the majority, they don't even believe in the shit no more. Look what they doing. They know that they ain't gonna get what they want without anarchy and without chaos. They already know what the results is gonna be. For some reason, we don't. Look at these nutcases. Why they didn't go vote? Why they didn't just march? Like, think about that. So even in that concept, and it's look at this, man. This is, I mean, I don't even know about this. This is just, it just gets hectic. And this is why, even when we talk about it in the first place, when we even first started, and I remember a while back when we first started talking about power, and when we was doing the power and chaos to each other. And a lot of people didn't really understand why we were talking about true chaos or total chaos as opposed to manipulated chaos, right? So manipulated chaos, the current situation that we was in, it was controlled. Everybody had to stay at home. Everything was shut down, right? Manipulated chaos. Same thing, January 6th, manipulated chaos, right? What you're truly looking for is what? A true chaos, something that's not controlled, because in manipulated chaos or something that's controlled, they can funnel you into the next system that they want to funnel you into. That means the people that's acting a fool is only paid actors, basically, just to get everybody to kind of follow the leader. But see, they lose total control. Then there has to be a total shift on how the world moves. There has to be a total shift on how economics function, even how land is allotted. But instead, a lot of the times, we're trying to have this smooth transition over into what we all claim that we want, for the most part. Not everybody, but for the most part, we think it's this smooth transition. There is no smooth transition. There's no easy way to move into what we're trying to get to. For the common people, for poor people in general, some for just black people. To me personally, I think it's outside of race. I think in somewhat that kind of shapes out how the system kind of functions in a way. But when we look at it in actuality, it's more of a collective that don't have against people that do have. Like, think about that. So now we talk about moving forward as a collective, and we talk about building some type of commonwealth or building some type of independent state. You know that is false. Niggas is trying to build another goddamn Kentucky or something like that. They're not talking about building anything that functions differently or outside of the current structure. And if it doesn't function any way near different from outside of the current structure, then how does that change your life? How does that change the direction that we're already currently going in? Like, think about that. How is that even possible? At some point, we got to make the decision. Do we just want another Texas or Kentucky where we're still practicing the same economic system that puts us at a default? Where we're still falling under the same judicial system that we feel like doesn't necessarily give us a fair shot? Or are we trying to give ourselves a chance to create something new that adds more balance and something that actually is more inclusive to us all, to our own ideas, to our own thoughts in the way that we kind of feel? A lot of people don't even realize capitalism has already failed. Look around. Power to the dark side of caution. Appreciate you in the building. Think about it. You at some point we got to realize what direction we want to go in. And see, we're already behind the 8 ball righteously because we're moving as if shit isn't changing and we're moving as if shit is going back to normal. Things are never going back to normal again. And I was going to say that this all started with the jab or, you know, all of that other stuff, but really it started with Trump. Since that shift, things was, and we've seen it. And what I mean by that, not necessarily him as a politician, but just in general, that type for him to be able to get put in that position based on the style that he ran with. You start at that point, there's a total shift in the direction of us in the world. See, we weren't the only place that it actually elected a Trump. That's what's crazy. We ain't the only place that actually elected a Trump. There was a Trump that was elected in the UK. There was a Trump that was elected in France. There was a Trump that was elected in Germany. Like all of these places happened at the same time. That's how you started getting Brexit and all of these things where they was trying to make themselves independent of the United Nations and independent of, you know, like basically changing the economic system. And all of them were having the same sentiments that Europe was for Europeans and not for the immigrants. America was for Americans and not for the immigrants. All of them had these same sentiments. So there wasn't just one particular place that was kind of creating these ideas. This was all happening at the same time. And since that moment, things have just continued not only to domino, but to move. The speed is just is out of this world right now. And we're still moving as if things are going to go back to normal. What else has to hit for us in order for us to wake up and realize things are changing right from underneath our feet? The economic system is changing right up under you. They just gave us money. They just kept printing and kept printing and kept printing. Then they just started handing it out to us like it wasn't shit. Because it ain't. And they want us to get comfortable with holding the bag. When are we going to be prepared for the next situation? Ahead of time. We get caught being reactionary every time it's time that we start taking action. And that doesn't necessarily have to look one way. It can look in multiple different ways. It can come from you, maybe you going ahead and having crypto. It can come from you maybe going ahead and learning how to survive off of less. It can go from you, you know, trying to figure out where you're gonna have land at, or even just growing food in your own home. But at some point in time, you have to have a mental shift and realize that things aren't going back to normal around you. Does that mean that you completely stop? I would like you to, but no. That would be my whole non-participation doctrine. But you know, I mean, if we just go keep going though, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stop. But you need to at least be somewhat prepared for yourself. You need to be preparing yourself spiritually, getting your mind together, and knowing that things aren't going back to normal, and that you don't need to be reacting to things, but you need to be able to take action when things do shift. And a lot of times we get so caught up with what's going on around, we forget. We get caught up in the entertainment. We get caught up in you know, the music, and arguing, debating, rap, all kind of stuff that we get caught up in. And it's like in those moments, sometimes we lose track of whether or not things will ever be the same. We lose track of what's going on. Really, the very people who built this country, who the country is for, their forefathers and all of that, they don't even believe in it no more. They have no faith in it anymore, to the point of they ran in their own damn Capitol building. You can pretend like that's not the majority, but we all know what time it is. They ran into their own Capitol building. Think about that. Right. So, in some point, and shout out facts. I can. That's a definite. I think that's on a higher understanding. I think that's on. I think overall we can say that we will be fine. I definitely believe that. I think that I don't think we can really change the trajectory that we are going in, but I think on an individual level, and some like maybe on in a, I'll say more so in a lower state. I think are prepared. I think individually, if we can try to save as many people as possible, that's the best thing. Because I think overall we're gonna be fine, but a lot of people are gonna be hurt because a lot of people aren't prepared mentally or physically. A lot of people aren't. A lot of and see even the preparedness of believing that things will be all right in the end. A lot of people aren't gonna be able to feel that in that moment because they're not preparing themselves to understand that this is going in the direction that has to happen. Like there's no question. So at some point we've got to start looking around and really kind of checking ourselves. Do we believe in this system more than the people who built it? And is that healthy for us? That's a fact. A lot of these things are illusion. I mean, we could even get into the fact that we live in a simulation in itself, but that would be a whole nother story. But like I said, we've got to be careful that we're not being the ones held holding up somebody else's shit. And that's actually a good point. The fact that we are a lot of times scared to adapt. We see a shift in currency coming around us. It's crypto. There's a shift in crypto. Does that mean that you put all your eggs in one basket? No, but you can at least be prepared for it. Hey, if it does shift overnight or something like that, you could have had something. You don't just start from scratch. Because once the shift happens, there is no spending to buy crypto. You're gonna have to earn it. Which means how you gonna earn crypto? You're gonna have to figure out a way to get it from people who already have it. Is that the boat you want to get left in? You don't want to have no crypto? You want to be coming to people for it, trying to figure out how to earn it? Because by that time, the transfer, it's going to be a different transfer from what the price I paid for it and the price you're going to have to pay for it. So at some point, what are we going to do? We've got to become more self-aware. We've fallen. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. You would think that January 6th would have been us. We were nowhere to be found. This is the people. Look at them. All of their forefathers is on the walls, and they running in that shit because they don't believe in it. Look at the pictures behind it. Those ain't our people. How the fuck do they pull a January 6th? And it don't even cross our mind. We're still trying to play the game by the rules. And they already told you that the rules have been broken. They already told you that it's a game. They showing you that. It's been a game and they're done playing. You trying to continue the game. And the worst part is you talking about a game and an infrastructure that was built against you and on top of you. Right? How are we supposed to manifest a better future when we're not ever willing to make the proper sacrifice for the next generation? If you look at the direction of the culture, even what like the country that we've been living in, they've kind of put us into this mode where now we become used to pushing shit off onto our kids, pushing our problems off onto our grandkids and our great grandkids. They started that habit back with the Social Security service when they first brought that into play. They knew that that issue that their great grandkids would never even be able to see it, but they did it anyway, saying that we'll push the problem from the Great Depression on to them. And then we continue to sign shit in effect that pushes us on to our kids. And meanwhile, the more that we keep pushing it off, the worse that things keep getting around us. Think about that. The price of milk ain't going up. The value of your dollar is going down. Shout out to Strap. The price of milk is not going up. It's the value of your dollar that's going down. That's why it's taking more. It's just going to take you more and more and more. Until when? How long do you continue to just go along with the get along? Especially when you know it's against you. Like, and to me, that's the most discouraging part. It'd be different if we talking about an infrastructure or a system that's not aggressive towards us. But the shit is aggressive towards us, and the people who built it are trying to tear it down, and we're fighting for some reason to hold it together. We're trying to be the glue to this shit. That right there is discouraging. At some point, we've got to see the system. We got to see how the infrastructure is functioning for what it is. It's taking advantage of us. It takes advantage of our energy. It takes advantage of our resources. That's just not here in general. And not only that, it attacks us every day for who we are. It attacks our culture every day. Every day we become more and more outside of the standard. Not being the standard or being outside of the standard puts you in a vulnerable position. You're at the mercy. That's why we have to be changing not only the way that we prepare physically, but the way that we are preparing mentally. And even in then, when things break down, what type of systems do we have in preparation or do we have that's ready that we can transition into? What type of ideologies do we have that we can go ahead and transition into? because that's going to have to change too. And I think that's the main point and the main basis for why we don't move the way that we're supposed to move. We don't have our ideology together. We're too everywhere. Our minds are too scattered. We're in too many different places. You're allowed to say whatever you want about it. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do with it. And there's never any consequences. Right? So eventually, when we looking and we like it, like we were master builders. And I don't mean in the Mason sense, but I mean, well, I guess you can't say whatever. But I mean, it's almost like we even lack an imagination to even create or even see, to kind of visualize what's over the horizon. It's like we lack this imagination. That's also an issue. A lack of belief in ourselves. Every day we make an excuse to create more distrust for each other instead of love. Every single day we make an excuse to hate each other, to sabotage each other, to get in each other's way. We do this every day. But our ideology has us scattered. People don't know who their brothers and sisters is no more. They don't know. People got brothers and sisters outside of the damn family. Where they do that at? Where do they do that at? How do you have brothers and sisters outside of the family, outside of the home? They had their brothers in Christ. That's where their loyalty is. You got niggas with their brothers in Islam. That's where their loyalty is. And meanwhile, the people who are loyal to the ones who are loyal to ourselves, we get ostracized. Our spirituality is demonized. The way that we think and believe is made fun of. They try to make being spiritual a joke. They try to make ancestor worship an abomination. Think about that. Look at how they look at our sacred sciences. We chart the stars and they pretend like how we read the cosmos is some primitive form or some foul way of thinking. And they're allowed to get away with that type of disrespect. No wonder you don't want to be you. When you look back and you see what you was doing and you see that you had people that was practicing magic, understanding how science works and understanding how to manipulate nature, but that you look at as demonized, it's evil. But yet you'll go into a science class and take chemistry. Where there you're also concocting all type of different materials from nature. Why is it okay to practice magic inside of a chemistry class? but you can't go be initiated by a voodoo priest. But you can't go be initiated by a voodoo priest. Same thing, same function. It's a manipulation of nature. Right. Alchemy. Alchemy. But it gets demonized. Meanwhile, those is able to use you as some sort of inside joke when they're traitors. They've already made their decision. At some point, we can't be the joke no more. The joke got to be on it. At some point, you can't be afraid of who you were and who you are. You got to embrace it. And what's sad to say, we're going to have to cut off a lot of people that pray for us. And a lot of our ancestors that prayed, that also was praying for us, because most of them prayed against us. And today they still pray against us. A lot of them are praying that you never find yourself. They're praying that you never find who you are, that you never actually get back to your own spirituality. They're praying against you. Not only that, a lot of them have already prayed you into a blood covenant that you didn't even ask to be in. Exactly. And that's what's crazy. A lot of our ancestors be from, we can go back, maybe I guess we could say we've been what, five or so generations. You go back to those before, a lot of them have been cut off from us spiritually. And we wonder why it's so much confusion whenever we talk about getting back to our spiritual roots. A lot of those ancestors have been cut off spiritually because of the practices was demonized. And we were promised that we would never go back to that. But here we are. We're coming back to it. You can get a reading from Nikwa B. You can get the charts or the cosmos charted for you and find out what the cosmos got in line for you, got in store for you. It's coming back now. We're bringing the you can feel now that a spiritual connection through, sometimes through different vibrations, through the music and through different, and that's okay now. It's okay for you to get lost in that again. We getting back to a point where it's okay for us to be positive. Being who we are, it's not an abomination. It's not something that's foul, and it's not primitive. It's ours. Part of our lack of respect is because we don't respect our own culture. We respect somebody else's. And we've allowed not only that their culture to infiltrate us, but we've allowed the spirits that come with they shit to infiltrate our hearts. And see, this is a good, we are so powerful, and that's crazy. And that's the issue that we end up having. Because when we get into our spirituality, we realize how powerful we are. But whenever we dealing with the other spirit, with other people's religions and other people's shit, they always want to take your power from you and give it to somebody, some damn vampire deity that's draining all your energy all the time. These thought demons. Yahweh is a thought demon. Jesus, a thought demon. You give them your prayers, they suck your energy and your life from around you every day. And all they do is speak against you while using your shit at that. They talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. No, no. They already drunk the blood. Remember? They drunk the blood and they ate the flesh. But your shit is demon. You got demons on you when you practicing your true spirituality, ancestor worship, and different things like that. But when they're drinking blood and eating Jesus' flesh, somehow that's okay. That's normal. These are vampire thought demons tricking you into damn rituals and shit that you don't even know what you're talking about or doing. It's ridiculous. And no way, no shape, no how could I ever offer you. Could we ever come to somebody with some voodoo and shit talking about some, hey, uh, guess what? In order to be accepted in the voodoo, you gotta drink you gotta drink Ogun's blood and eat his flesh. They be looking at you like you crazy. Like, huh? Oh no, no, no. Jesus ain't said that. But yeah, they fine with eating this nigga flesh and his blood spiritually. Like that's the worst kind. Just think about that. The worst kind of vampirism that you can have is the one that you do spiritually. Because maybe just because you're doing it physically don't necessarily mean that you believe in it. But if you're doing it spiritually, that shit is resting in your heart. You're locking in yourself in a whole nother realm, in a whole taking on a whole nother contract with a damn thought demon you don't even know about from some damn mountain in Turkey created by Asiatics. That's an issue. That's our problem. And we're allowed to be treated or looked at as if we're a disgrace. Think about that. So even in our own instance, it's hard for us to look in the mirror at ourselves with respect and dignity. because everyone around us is not only praying against us, but they speak against us and they mock us. And then they try to pretend like they the ones that's being mocked and ostracized by the world when they're the fucking standard. And anybody outside of them is the ones that's demonized and not allowed to participate. You crazy. Oh, we crazy? I don't think Nick will ever have to drink blood of anybody or eat anybody's flesh to read tarot cards to get the answers. I mean, I don't remember seeing that. I remember watching. I don't remember that part of the show. Let me know if I missed something, Nico. Just let me know because I'm not sure. Shout out to Northern Bella. I appreciate you in the building, sis. And shout out to Big O. Power to the dark side, guy. You ever had to do that? I don't remember. I remember watching some readings. I don't remember that part. So maybe I just want to make sure ain't nothing that I don't know about. That way, maybe I need to shut. I didn't know that you had to accept blood and flesh in order to chart the cosmos and find out what the universe is telling you. I didn't know that. I didn't know I needed to drink blood and eat flesh to communicate with God. That's how you know you're dealing with dark demons. They want your mind. And all they do is tell you is how much power you don't have every day. You don't have the power. I got the power. You don't even know where the hell this thing is. It's not even from the planet. It's not natural. It's not even foreign to you. It talks to you like you are two separate things. Your thoughts aren't its thoughts aren't your thoughts. But yet it wants your energy. Why? Who needs who more? Is it this God? Or is it you that need the God? Which one? I can't really tell. Because he so spends a lot of time trying to make sure I don't trust those around me and trying to make sure that I don't believe that any of us have power as a collective. See, this is when it gets real when we get into being a Babel builder and why we are building Babel. Why? Because when they talk about what Babel represents was us as a collective, the power that we had as a collective when we move under one mind, when we actually respect ourselves and we actually are using our spirituality and we are actually using and the language of the universe, communicating with the universe. Notice how we understood the symbols and the shapes and the designs. All of that sacred geometry, it still holds true today. We've been talking about splitting atoms and all of that. There's nothing new. We did it using symbols and things. So as we can already feel, there's a full shift taking place. And along with the shift, there will be consequences for those who speak against us. There must be. There's got to be consequences for those who pray against us. Right? Think about that. Think about it. I mean, all of these though, you gotta think though too. To a lot of these things too. Oh, I don't think you offended nobody neither. I think for the most part, everybody here Babel builders. So I think you tarot cards is okay. Tarot cards and different things don't get ostracized over on this end. I don't think that's what she meant either. So shout out to Akasha. So at some point, when we become the standard, those who speak against us as the standard, they've got to be ostracized. Because not only are they praying against themselves, they pray against us as a collective. They hold us back as a collective. They create lies and deceit amongst us as a collective. They try to create distrust for one another. Notice that. You can tell these are demiurges. The fact is, any deity that tells you that you can't trust, think about this. We can't trust no damn man and whatever message he got in his own head. We didn't hear the message, only he got it. And we just gotta trust that. But we can't trust no man. Like this shit gets silly. Shout out to Tequila. I appreciate you coming through, sis. It gets silly. Why can't you trust anybody around you? Because this, whatever this deity is, or this earth, this demiurge, it wants you to be in confusion. It wants us to stay apart from one another. It doesn't want us as a collective. It wants us to think that we are powerless. Why? Why don't we have the power as a collective? Why am I not okay? Why can I not trust you? Why not? And who the hell would want to put that in? Just think about that. We go in to build a bank, and it's somebody that's putting deceit in our ear, or you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I can't be building a bank with somebody and thinking that they're gonna steal the money. That don't even make sense. But they want to create the distrust and disloyalty. Why? So not only that you don't build, but you'll destroy, you'll tear down, you'll pray against. Think about it. Think about it. At some point, we've got to eliminate the distrust. We can't allow people around us with dogma and doctrines that tell us that we can't trust one another, that we ain't got no power, and that anytime we build for each other, we doing it in out of it, under our own will. Well, what will are we supposed to be doing it under? Think about that. But then that comes from and like I said, a lot of that it comes from, and it's idolatry. Anytime anything is getting you to worship something outside of yourself, think about that. The creative energy is in you, and you worshiping something outside of it. So if the creator is in me, who the hell am I worshiping? Who am I giving my energy to? If it's not going inward and it keeps going out. And a lot of people don't even see the game. A lot of people don't even see the game and how you're always giving spiritually in order to receive things physically in the material world. A lot of people don't even see that. These are thought demons. And it's sad because people that we love, people that we respect, out of ignorance, they pray against us. Out of ignorance, they put curses on us. Think about how much people used to say, I plead the blood. They just pleading blood all over you. God damn. I'm not with the vampirism. Don't plead no blood on me. It ain't that much. Like you, as bad as they talk about voodoo, you would think you would think all voodoo do is talk about blood. All they it just gets ridiculous. I plead the blood. At some point, there's gonna be a lot of people that we love and respect. We're gonna have to cut off spiritually, especially because they curse and pray against you. Power to the dark side. Kofi Hill is in the building. Some of them have already prayed. Facts. Blood magic. Blood magic. People don't even be hearing. You're eating flesh and drinking blood in your heart. You don't see how significantly dangerous that shit is in your heart. Just because you do it physically, you could just be going through the motions. But you let shit like that get in your heart, you're gonna have a tough time getting it out of there. Put that up there. Eventually, in order for us to get over the hump spiritually as a collective, right? Spiritually as a collective, there is going to be at some point a line of ancestors that aren't in the spiritual, that don't have that spiritual connection that we're trying to get to. We're gonna have to cut them off and go back to the ancestors that do and reestablish that connection so we can restart a cycle. Oh man, goddamn. You have to. I had to put my I had to put my email. I didn't actually get your email. I'm sorry. My fault. So anyway, but shout out to y'all Daniel Godbody. I appreciate you in the building. In order for us to get over that spiritual hump, though, we're gonna have to reestablish a connection with ancestors that go back further. Because you got to remember, it ain't like we talk about Africa a lot of times and that cultural spirituality, but in general, it's an aboriginal culture globally. That's why in our cultures, the serpent is always at the forefront. And if you notice in these religions, what are they always trying to kill or stomp out? It's the serpent. Why? That serpent is a representation of you. Think about it. When the gods lose, you lose. That serpent was a representation of you and your culture. That's what the serpent has always been symbolic for. But the serpent in Aboriginal cultures is always held at a high regard. Like really. Put your put everything for your for the listening party in the chat. Yeah, I definitely would I would definitely do that. Definitely show up for that. That would be dope. Yeah, so I can go ahead and make that announcement. And a lot of this process that we getting ready to go through spiritually is going to be a tough one. It's going to be tough to cut off grandma spiritually. I don't want to do that. It's tough to tell my mama to stop praying for me. It's worked well. But as a collective, it's worked against us. They've prayed against us, and we've allowed them to do it long enough. They prayed against us. We've been made heathens. When truly, not only is our culture the foundation of these religions, that's what's the worst part. Because a lot of them, they steal our foundation. And then they try to direct it towards some outside force, though. And that's the part of the energy. That's the part of them stealing our energy. That's the part where they steal our power. So yeah, we got to get our power back. And grandma's prayers, those are, to Jesus, those got to stop. Those have got to stop. Thank you, grandma. I love you, but no more. Spiritually, we may have to go back 4 or 5 generations in order to reestablish the connection that we had, to where a lot of us get out of the fear of doing the things that we've always done, of practicing the traditions and practicing the cultures that we've always practiced. Because the problem is, a lot of us, grandma instilled that fear. She put that fear in your heart of Yahweh. You scared to get over the spiritual hump. A lot of people thought burning the Bible was just to burn pages and do. No. Psychologically, you have a fear of that book. It's instilled in your heart. to the point where you don't even think like a normal person, like a human being. You think animalistically. You think as an individual. You think as somebody that's from a weak position because they put that in your heart. I mean, it's bad. That infiltration, the fear of the Lord. What they say, the first step in the first part of knowledge of man or whatever is fear of the Lord. Grandma put that fear of the Lord in your heart, and you scared to move. See, people don't realize in order for us to even get into these different religions, we had to denounce our spirituality. We had to denounce our ancestors, denounce the cultures that our ancestors had passed down in those traditions. So guess what? In order for us to get back to that, we're going to have to do some more denouncing. We're going to have to denounce the ones who denounced us in the first place. Unfortunately, those people spiritually locked themselves into a hell. And they're trying to lock you into that same hell also. And in exchange for earthly goods. Notice that the results are always physical with these thought demons. That's some devil shit. They tell you about the devil while they doing devil shit to just throw you off. It's always for material. How do you know? Think about it. How do you know when God is working in their life? Because of some physical shit. Nothing finite. It ain't got to be love. Just a new truck. It's always some physical shit. Trading your spiritual energy and your power for the material world. An illusion. That's right. That's the sad part. And see, that's a principle that they ignore. That we're made in the image. But they don't know what image. They think about the physical image. See, that's how they polluted that verse. They turned that verse into being the physical image. God isn't a physical being. The creator isn't a physical being. It has physical attributes, some. There's some parts of it that's physical because at the same time, we are therefore physical and we are a part or in the body or the mind of the creator. But when we talk about in the image, that image is a spiritual image. The image is talking about the mind. The mind is made in the likeness of the creator. Why? Because the mind is the creator's. There's only one mind. And it can manifest itself in many different forms of matter, material, flesh, but it's only one mind. And see, the dogma comes in and they try to tell you that, well, what you do in life can disconnect you from that, from this physical force. You can't disconnect from it. There's no disconnecting. That's not your energy. It doesn't belong to you in the first place. It's the mind. And we know that it's the mind because all things that are created of the physical world or physical matter is all in your mind. We've all agreed upon it in our mind. I keep telling you, you created this program. You have to go inside of yourself and get you out of it. See, the I is the collective. The I is the collective. That's God. So at some point, you have to believe in your what? In yourself. We have to believe in the I as a collective, because the collective I is what? Is our power. That's what our strength is. That's where we will get shit done at. Shout out to Frontline and no, I appreciate you, God body. That's where our power is. And that's why all they try to do is convince us to separate ourselves from the I. They try to pervert the image of the I. They want you to say, oh, no, no. The I doesn't have any power. The I is just moving on your own. That's moving on your own will. No, the I is God. The I is the authority. And the I is what creates all. But that's true self-awareness. Exactly. The program. The program. Understanding that you are what? You have manifested yourself. You are that, and this is why I always say you're already in an avatar. You decided these are spacesuits that you live in. You decided to pick these spacesuits. You decided to connect your mind to these spacesuits that we call bodies, and that have a brain. And this brain functions as a filter to the mind. The brain operates as a filter to the mind, and the programmer has already set the program on what the brain will deem as worthy of information and not worthy of information. That's already set. What was it? Lex did Lex had what was it? It was a show one time he did when he was talking about, shout out to Amari Sweets, I appreciate you in the building. He had a show one time where he was talking about where diseases come from, and how what he was showing was that 99% of diseases come from thoughts. Only 1% of the diseases actually come from protein. Shout out to Emily N. I appreciate you, sis. Think about that. If 1% or less than 1% of diseases come from protein, The other 99% are coming from your own thoughts. That means you think yourself sick. And then you accept that. At some point, we moving into an age where we stop accepting the program as it is. And we start creating a new one. There are going to be a lot of people that we love and a lot of people that we respect. A lot of, and we're going to have to spiritually cut them off because, like I said, they're just praying against us. Some we're going to have to physically cut off because they whisper in our ears that we don't have power. But there's a real spiritual shift that's taking place to where we're no longer the joke. We no longer look crazy, and they are starting to look like liars. The eye will make a liar out of them. You can't say the eye ain't got power. No. If you didn't have no power, these thought demons wouldn't be trying to drain it out of you every damn day. In Islam, they draining the damn thought demon wants their energy what 8 times a day. How long are you exactly supposed to be going through that? That puts you in a difficult position. You need theirs. You are trading your spiritual energy and your spiritual power for the material world. And a lot of times you're not even getting a fair shake. So at some point in time, we're going to have to start putting a little bit more value on what we put in on our heart itself and what we put into it. And for some of us, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle to get what was already put inside of there out. But like I said, in order for us to get over the spiritual hump, there are going to be a lot of ancestors that we're going to have to spiritually cut off. We have got to get our power back. Think about that. There are going to be and a lot of you probably got a list of people that you can think of now. Think about that. You probably got a list of those that you can think of right now. Of people who told you that you was moving under your own will. People who told you that you didn't consult with the book before you decided to make your decision. As a collective, in order to get over the spiritual hump, we are going to stop giving our energy to these thought demons with vampiric intentions. I mean, the minute that we heard flesh and blood was on the table to drink and eat, I don't care if it was spiritual or physical. You're not putting those, I'm not drinking those spiritual, I'm not doing that ritual in my heart. They always tell you, you got to be careful what you put into your heart. If there's anything you shouldn't be putting in your heart, it's spiritual blood and spiritual flesh. It's spiritual blood and spiritual flesh. That's the reason why we're not getting over the hump. We've got to get you out from under this blood covenant. And a lot of you are ready to and want to, and you can feel the spiritual shift. But grandma hid that fear so deep into your heart that subconsciously it kind of stops you right when you get to when you get close to the edge. We gotta see you, and you gotta see yourself. We gotta get to a point where we don't allow these spiritual agents, because that's really what it becomes. These people become either spiritual sleeper cells or they are known spiritual agents that are literally pulling you down and draining your energy, creating spiritual confusion, spiritual mistrust. So whenever we try to collectively come together with the I tell you, you ain't got no power or the authority to do that, because you didn't go to the book first. But we're skipping by all of the tools. We're going to the source now. We know where the source is now. We understand that. That's what makes us Babel builders. Understanding that giving that energy to anything outside of yourself is only a detriment to it. And not only to you, but as a collective. These thought demons don't deserve your prayers. They don't. These thought demons, they don't deserve them. They don't deserve your power. They don't even deserve your respect. What respect did these thought demons give you? In every way, they made a mockery of Aboriginal culture every way possible. They tried to force us away from the spiritual shift. They tried to scare us away from it. They tried to trick us into covenants and spiritual contracts with thought demons unknowingly. Unknowing who you was giving your loyalty up to. You had no idea. But we're going to get over the spiritual hump. There will be a spiritual shift. And unfortunately, a lot of people that we love and loved, we're gonna have to cut them off. They're not necessarily because their intentions was bad, but no, it was, but because a lot of times they did it out of ignorance. Sometimes they did it out of fear, for survival. But we're not trading our soul any longer for material gain. We don't want to survive. We are going to live and be respected for the way that we live. We're going, like, it has to become that way. We got to detach from these silly, there are so many of these silly, basically, stipulations that they try to set on us. But they want you to fall into the program. They want you into the program of how long you can live, how far you can go, how much you can create, how much power you have. And telling you that you don't have the authority. These thought demons do not deserve your love. They have nothing to offer. They just don't deserve it. And at some point, we're going to have to show. And that time is coming. There's no question on it. There's nothing to doubt. There's nothing to doubt at all. Nothing. This one. Okay. Get this thing off my phone. But we're getting over this, the spiritual, huh? Regardless. The first part, though, we're going to have to do is get over the fear. It's hard to tell grandma, hey, I love you, grandma. I know you got great intentions, but you're praying against me. That's a tough thing to do. But that takes preparation and spiritually being able to prepare yourself for that. You have to. That's all you know for a lot of us. But eventually it has to be brought out that, hey, spiritually, mama, the direction that not only I'm going, but us as a collective are headed, you're actually in opposition of that. You're not only that, you're praying towards the enemy. You're giving the enemy strength. the very thought demon I'm against, you getting ready to pray in his name and then put his blood all over spiritually. So that's the hard part for us. But eventually we will be able to get over the hump. With that being said, man, I appreciate all my Bible builders, all of those who are new to the Bible building, all of those who are soon to be Bible building. Remember, if you are listening to this, together we are Bible. Let's build. Got to give a special power to the dark side, and of course, the special praise to Stimia, the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, who is the image of the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. That being said, peace.
Depo on the beat.
I couldn't believe it, even when out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. Been double dead by the devil, and I'm still in the fields. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe it, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been double dead by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. Now y'all get to see me without a mud. Everything that I do gon' be out of love. And I'm tired of these trials and these tribulations, and I'm sick of my name always getting drugged. But no, I ain't budge. All of this money and you not pursuing it. All of this time you don't know what to do with it. Counterproductive and counterintuitive. Why you be acting like you all brand new to it? Straight from the gutter, boy, we getting sewer. As soon as we get it, you know we gon' move it quick. All of this money I made from the block, get out the game and invested in stock. Bought me a whip, get the rest of it up. When you saving, don't stop, and it messes them up. We gon' be fine, but we stay on our grind. All of my niggas is stepping it up, and they foot on our neck and no letting it up. We level the playing field, even the battle. My son is a scientist, he's splitting at us. Need us more geniuses, I know we got them. I know it's in us, I'm bringing it out. I know I ain't perfect, I'm making them out. On Capitol Hill, and I'm bringing them houses. The path that I'm on should nobody follow. I couldn't believe it, even when out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. Been double dead by the devil, and I'm still in the fields. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been double dead by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. We fought hard on this road this longer. Fighting each other won't make us no stronger. I need this niggas been fighting this hunger. I'm at my worst and ain't getting no wronger. No change of silence, I'm making it through. I flip a chair or a table or two. They won't believe what I'm able to do. I'm making these moves, but this a new movement. My dog at the gate and all praises the Anubis. I get too lit in my boat pack with doobies. On my way up and I break through your roof and shot for the moon, it made me a star. Got so much I can make it to Mars. Can't promise today that I'll make it tomorrow. Every time that we make the pay,